Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kramer, in May of 2020, Emergent was contracted to receive $628 million to reserve and prepare its Bayview facility to produce vaccine, correct?
That is correct.
And under the terms of that contract, Emergent was required to maintain its facility, quote, in a state of readiness to perform current good manufacturing practices. You don't dispute that, right?
That is correct.
And a month after the contract was awarded, Janssen Pharmaceuticals performed an audit that found, quote, unquote, mold issues at the Bayview facility. FDA, in April of 2021, found that the building used for manufacturing vaccine, quote, is not maintained in a clean and sanitary condition. You don't dispute that, correct?
I believe that's correct,
And
yes.
FDA found paint peeling on the floors and walls. You don't dispute that either, right?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And you don't deny that the FDA found brown residue and black residue on plant walls, correct?
I'm not aware of that particular finding.
Yeah, it's on page 3. I got to tell you, Mr. Kramer, my teenage son's room gives your facility a run for its money in terms of its cleanliness. And, you know, on page 8 of this FDA report, which I have right here, it says Emergent, quote, has failed to adequately train personnel involved in manufacturing operations, quality control sampling, and engineering operations to prevent cross-contamination of bulk drug substances. You don't deny that FDA found that, right?
That is correct.
So it's no surprise that late last year, Emergent had to toss out 5 batches of AstraZeneca vaccine, amounting to roughly 10 to 15 million doses of vaccine. And then yet again, as you testified this morning, you had to throw out, discard, destroy bulk drug substance amounting to 15 million doses of J&J vaccine. Now, let me point you to the scorecard for what you folks actually achieved. In 2020, you received a contract for about $648 million. That's 2 or 3 contracts. You personally were paid $5.6 million in 2020, and the number of usable doses delivered to the American people was a grand total of, you guessed it, 0. 0, a spectacular failure. And yet, in a February 2021 meeting of the Compensation Committee of Emergent's Board of Directors, I'll show you what was presented to them. They said, you, quote unquote, significantly exceeded expectations for 2020. I got to tell you, Mr. Kramer, if you look at this chart right here, given the fact that no usable doses made into anyone's arms, you did not significantly exceed the American people's expectations. Interestingly, that same presentation recommends that you get a bump from $5.6 million in 2020 to $7.8 million in 2021. That's this year. You earned $3.7 in 2019, so you experienced a 51% increase in your compensation, amounting to almost a $2 million increase. Sir, given that you take full responsibility for what happened in 2020, that you apologize to this committee today, sir, would you commit to turning over your $1.9 million bonus to the taxpayers of America?
Congressman, I will not make that commitment.
I didn't think so, sir. In fact, in 2020, you were evaluated for 2020. The Compensation Committee said you, quote, ensured successful execution of all 6 corporate goals. Unfortunately, none of those 6 corporate goals related in any way to the number of vaccines that you put into American arms. Now, you wrote in an op-ed in the Baltimore Sun that, quote, people in our country, or at least some in our media, tend to put a target on the backs of people doing good. You don't think that you're testifying before us because we thought you did good in 2020, do you? I didn't think so. Thank you. I yield back.